It's Brent. You know, my family invented the original peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You're not gonna find that in any government records. But after a while of using the same recipe over and over, eventually you want to mix it up, so we slowly started combining cooking with eugenics. Now before me, my parents swapped the jelly for honey, and that's a great sandwich. Trust me, I've eaten a sandwich before. So now I'm doing my part and improving it further. And I have an idea! I swapped the peanut butter for mayonnaise, and while I was at it, I went ahead and swapped the bread for another starch. A potato. It'll be perfect. How could it have been so bad? I only changed everything. Hey, you know when an IP sells fairly well, so you make an adaptation out of it with a few changes, but it doesn't do as well, so you make another adaptation with even more changes, and then it does horribly? I had to get some use out of this. Ichiban Ushiro no Daimaou, or the Demon King in the first row, follows Sai Akita, who's proclaimed to be the next Demon King. Now does the outfit make sense? Okay. Sai's goal? Make the world a better place by helping this old lady, and then killing God and reconstructing the entirety of the world's social hierarchy and belief systems. It's like every JRPG ever. With clever writing, emotionally complex characters, and a powerhouse studio taking reins on the project, it truly could be something special. It had none of that. I'm gonna touch on its origins briefly because it'll explain why personally, I think this IP is fucking cursed. Originally, it started off as a light novel written by Mizuki Shotaro and received 13 volumes for its publication, and in case you're wondering, yes, I didn't read these. The problem is, all three of those versions are totally different from one another and end up telling very different stories. Everyone has ideas. Those who make a product had an idea, and those who make alterations or adaptations had their own ideas on how to change or improve what was already there. Changes during an adaptation aren't unheard of or inherently bad, and it's quite common to make a couple of edits for the sake of either pacing or making sure that X amount of the original property fits within Y amount of space, which either results in content being cut or filler being added. Filler specifically becomes especially noticeable whenever an anime runs alongside the publication of a manga, and then you end up with either Dragon Ball or Fullmetal Alchemist. Now again, I didn't read the light novel. I'm a weeb, not a nerd. But from what I've read online, there was a major tonal shift in the last two volumes, with it ending on a bit of an open question. From what I found online, the author had experienced a personal tragedy during the creation of those later volumes, and it's assumed the grief he was experiencing bled into the work, leading what was an absurd comedy harem to take on a very existential tone. So with the light novel ending on a sad and super introspective note, what happened with the manga? He got the true harem ending with a wedding! And then some guy drops in, steals one of the girls, and vanishes. Yeah, so the manga ended on a cliffhanger that had nothing to do with the light novel. I'm not sure why the manga stopped there, but I could only see low sales being the main reason why the manga stopped. Wikipedia says the anime followed the first 5 volumes of the manga. Only 2 volumes of the manga were published when the anime aired. Now this makes sense, as usually anime is used more to advertise and push people to buy the manga. So while some anime will wait until enough volumes are published to be able to create a show around the content that's already been created and maybe pull some of the anime-only fan base into buying the manga to support the IP financially, other shows don't have that luxury and just kind of wing it. This is how you end up with Fullmetal Alchemist. The 2004 version. By the time that show had finished airing, it only had about 8 volumes of manga to work off of, and during early production, they only had 6, but it ended up being 51 episodes. For reference, Brotherhood had 27 volumes to work off of, and it had 64 episodes. That's about 3 times as much material to work with. So since Bones, the studio behind the original adaptation, didn't have that much content to work with and didn't know what the ending would be, they took some liberties and made some, changes. I bring this up because it's a perfect comparison to what happened here with Ichiban. When the show finished airing and broadcast its season finale, there were only 2 volumes published. It ended with a to be continued after resolving the major conflict. It had such high hopes. And at this time, the light novel had published 11 of its 13 volumes, so there could have been more if not for real life getting in the way. Also, Artland went bankrupt. Now, they did go bankrupt 7 years after the broadcasting of Ichiban, but I still personally like to attribute this series as a factor that led to the eventual collapse of Artland. Mainly because it aligns with my own conspiracy theories. But that's enough of the roller coaster backstory. Let's get to the real brass tacks. Is it horny? Yes. The character design is pretty solid here. It's your typical harem show of, oh, what color hair girl do you like the best? I really like green. But their looks are vastly different from one another, and they do have a decent array of personalities for you to cling to. Our protagonist is Sai Akito, a self-proclaimed good guy who wants to eventually become pope so he can change the world for the better, until a bird tells him to go fuck himself and that he's a demon lord now. Like seriously, those markings around your eyes, are those makeups or birthmarks? Clearly, you're evil! Anyways, he tries to convince everyone he isn't bad, and to do this, he blows up his classroom. Then, onto the reason you watch the show, the not boys. We have blue girl, and red girl, and purple girl, and yellow girl, and green girl. She's my favorite. Okay, so going in that order. First is Junko Hattori. She's a fucking samurai or something. She wields a katana and wears a loincloth. Why do I know that? You'll see. She's also a bit of a tsundere, so those who know me would assume she'd be in the running for best girl. No. Next is Kina Soga, whose personality is that they can fly, turn invisible, and eats a lot of rice. Also, they're like a catalyst for God and the fabrication of new realities and the key to demon lords destroying the world or something. They end up naked a lot. Then we have Fujiko Eto, who's a potion brewing mastermind, initial villain, and then the most annoying follower who dreams of ruling the world alongside Sai. She keeps her dead brother's head in a Futurama-style glass case. And then there's Lily Shiraishi. She doesn't show up much, but she's the student council president. Her powers are basically Luffy, and my favorite part about her is that her hat changes expressions. Finally, we have best girl, Korone. She's a Lyrodon, which is a magical android sent by the government to spy on Sai and eliminate him should he begin to do anything Demon King-like. She's almost always emotionless, but she does enjoy teasing Sai, and her deadpan expressions sell it pretty well. She also sleeps on the shelf in his closet. So, easy storage. And then I won't be talking about the other characters here because honestly, they're just okay, and also, they don't fit the mission statement of the channel. And now for the fun part. I'm gonna speedrun the plot of the show, so you know just enough about the plot to not need to watch it yourself. I'm doing you a favor. Episode 1, cold open of a mother leaving her crying baby on the steps of some type of an orphanage. I too have seen movies. Hard cut to our protagonist, Sai, who's minding his own business. Blue-haired girl jumps past him and we're shown a loincloth. Old lady drops her shit, so he helps her, too much, and the blue-haired girl thinks he's actually robbing her, so she kicks his ass. They clear up the misunderstanding and take a magical train to their magic school. I too have seen movies. He says he wants to become a grand priest in order to change the world, and they make a vow to help each other out. Explore the school, meet the school nurse, and a magical crow that will determine your future occupation with 100% accuracy. Everyone just accepts this bird as law, and Sai is declared to become a demon king. Make a bunch more misunderstandings between him and his classmates. This causes everyone to freak the fuck out, including Junko, who proceeds to attack him for toying with her heart or some shit. And his unintentional response to being attacked is to just blow up the entire classroom. This Miwa guy is also around now as kind of a yes man to Sai, and during the last 5 minutes, we briefly meet the other 3 main girls, Eto, Kana, and Korone. Episode 2. Korone explains that she's a Lyrodon, and then Kana proceeds to strip naked, turn invisible, and fly away. Then Korone tells the headmaster that she was sent by the government, and so she must stay with Sai in his room, and he's okay with this because every headmaster in every anime is fucking wild. Nurse explains how magic works and gives him the magical equivalent of an iPhone with a database of every student in the school and the ability to call anyone by just thinking about it. This is an interesting mechanic that gets used all of 3 times. Korone teases Sai, a high school boy, about sleeping in the same bed before going to a more appropriate place to sleep, the closet. Next day, Eto shows up. She's the school's goddess archetype and is super nice and understanding of Sai's position, which means she's fucking lying. She wants to talk to Sai without Korone around, and the only way to get Korone to not be watching is to turn her off. How do you turn off the magical android? You pull her bunny tail she hides underneath her skirt. Don't question it. They go to the forest, giant dog attacks, Korone fucking shoots it, Kana shows up again, then dips, Sai finally pulls her tail, and he can speak freely to Eto. She gives him a gun and 2 bottle cap candies. We learn Eto's true nature and meet her brother's head. Episode 3 starts with the backstory of Eto and her brother. Her mom's a bitch that pressures her into being better than her brother, who supposedly failed the family. Sai and Miwa take a bath. Korone asks to see Sai's penis, just so she can compare it to other men's penises, not for anything weird. We meet the student council. They don't matter much except for the president and this one girl that always says Guga. Kana stops by Sai's room to leave a rice cooker because she just loves rice, and also they're not allowed to have them on campus. Sure, it's a magical campus with magical creatures and students have the capability of destroying entire classrooms and fields with a single spell, but a rice cooker? That is far too dangerous. Later, Sai goes to some underground cave system under the school. I too have seen movie. How many times do I have to reference? It's Harry Potter. Just hornier. So Sai fucks up the guys who gang up on him in the cave. This leads to another misunderstanding with Junko for the 3rd time in 3 episodes. I wonder how high it'll go. Also, those tabs Eto gave him were drugs to make whoever ingested them fall madly in love with Eto and swear their loyalty to her. To end the episode, the entire school goes all out to attack Sai in an attempt to kill him, but Kana changes Junko's mind about killing him, so it turns into a 3 versus, I don't know. I count at least 7 people in that mob. Anyways, it starts snowing rice. Episode 4, we learn Eto's brother did a thing and meets some blonde guy. He also doesn't remember anything from back then. At school, they practice throwing magic and yeah, that's about right. Whatever Korone is eating reminds me of the egg from Berserk. So, the premise for this episode is that Sai has to go to the mental discipline chamber, which is like solitary confinement for 12 hours. But he can't be alone for that long. Then nothing interesting would happen. So Korone sneaks in, as does Kana. They make him even more stressed, and Eto plans to use a hallucinogenic gun to make Sai delirious so she can look like his savior. Just normal villain type shit. Sai and the girls find a treasure map in the wall of the chamber because where else would you hide a treasure map? Also, Kana needs to pee now. Remember this shit? Cause I do. So they get out, Eto takes the map from them and recognizes the handwriting on the map as her brother's, but again, he doesn't remember shit. Also, new green-haired girl, I can't remember her name, but she's a supporting villain. Teria. Her name's Teria. Someone stole the map from Eto and made copies, then plastered them all over the school, so now everyone wants to find the treasure. Bunch of kids get hurt by a monster while looking for it. Also, his map started white then changed to yellow. Like, that was back to back. You can't check for basic animation errors in the Blu-ray release when you had time to go back and double check? Why am I putting more effort into this video than you put into the entire anime? Look, I know they're just trying to get a bag, but like... So they banned students from looking for it, and the school forces Sai to go look for it himself. Episode 5. They're in the massive cave now, and they're looking for the grave of Boichiro. That name will be important later. There's a tornado in the cave. The tornado has tentacles. Sai shoots it with a gun. I'd like the other green-haired girl more if she wasn't a massive bitch later. More drama between Eto and her brother. Kana shows up naked in Eto's secret room, and she just doesn't care. Junko heads over to find out what's happening, and Sai and company goes to a nearby destroyed town. They get attacked by suits of armor, and Sai is so badass he catches a swinging axe with 2 fingers. What the fuck was that? Next, they go to another cave. Teria sneaks in with Sai. Junko's taking a bath in the cave she just fell into because why the fuck not? You'd think this is another setup for another misunderstanding with Junko, but actually, Junko knows who Teria is, so she just decides to kill her straight away. There's a wolf down here. Sai gets bit, but the wolf passes out. Everyone else shows up. Teria runs away. Apparently, the wolf fell asleep because of a chemical on Sai's arm that Etta slapped on at some point. They go to another new place to finish the treasure hunt. The student council president just teleports in because this was all a ploy by the student council for some reason. Yeah, this episode makes no fucking sense. Etta runs past them deeper into the cave and activates the system. So now we have a dragon who fucks shit up and will only listen to the Demon King. Well, thank God we have one of those. We see why Etta's brother erases his own memories and gets choked out by this guy. Oh yeah, it's kind of a cyber dragon, I think. Sai confronts the dragon and fucking punches it and wins. Episode 6, Korone, being a government employee, has a conference call where she's told, hey, you should fuck Sai, or we'll scrap you for parts. It's a beach episode, because fuck you. Also, pause. Okay, this is hilarious to me because it, again, has to do with the timing of releases and cut and added content. Also, this tangent has to do with what canonically happens right before this episode. So by this point in the anime, chronologically, story-wise, we're in like volume 4 of the 5 mangas that got published. And before the Seaside School takes place in the manga, the trip actually got canceled. Kinda. So it gets canceled by the headmaster and turns into a competition that allows the students to attempt to be allowed to go. It's stupid. It gets more stupid. What's the competition? Simple. Take girls' panties off. Why? Look, this is very fucking dumb. I'll fully admit that. The characters they use to battle against the students are just... okay, sure. The headmaster is probably the biggest pervert here, but whatever. To me, it's just funny that this was introduced 2 years after the anime aired. And I still don't know whether or not this even happens in the light novel, so the manga could be more canon, but nothing was lost by not having it in the anime since it was entirely filler. Look, I found out this exists, and if I have to know about it, you do too. Anyways, back to the story. Imagine having filler in a speedrun to talk about filler. Wild. Resume! Korone gets very direct with trying to seduce Sai. Why is he laying in this direction? Like, doesn't it make more sense to lay the other way? Why is that what I notice? Sai gets very uncomfortable and tells Korone she doesn't turn him on, which, considering her new mission, means death. So she tries new ways to seduce him. A lot of ways. Sai just has a portal on his desk he can climb into, so to escape the android girl, he goes to his pet dragon and finds Kana just sleeping there. Korone follows. She causes a lot of issues, including with Junko. Sea cucumber. Jesus fucking Christ. There's the thumbnail. You're welcome. Korone practically fails. This background reminds me of Persona 4's Inaba. We get Miwa backstory. The school chooses to protect Sai and ignore the dragon. Lily also decides, yeah, fuck the government. Shady shit is gonna happen, including a group called Simo 8, but Eto can't tell Sai because she can't reach him with her telepathy. They haven't upgraded to 5G telepathy yet. Sakina flies over to warn him, but she got drunk off of sake accidentally, so fuck it. Episode 7. Miwa's future occupation, as determined by a bird, is a hero. Oh yeah, Korone also got attacked or whatever. She dips through a magic fuck you door. Miwa meets up with his little sister and gushes about Sai. Also, his village just loves to talk shit about a teenage boy. Sai causes another misunderstanding, this time with Miwa, so he runs off. Miwa explains a bunch of shit about lakes and explains that only the hero could pull some type of a sword out of the bottom of the lake. This is Mr. X, and he appears as a villain that likes to expose his speakers. Ah, I bet you thought I was gonna say dick. He spawns a giant sea cucumber, then abducts Miwa's sister. Then Kana just walks over to him to ask him politely to stop. He doesn't. Sai can't fight him because Mr. X makes a super loud noise which disrupts the flow of mana, therefore making magic impossible to use. Sai is also like 20 times more buff in this episode. Miwa got punched into the lake, finds the cave and the sword, pulls it out, and turns into Iron Man. I'm not joking about that. Korone shows back up after making a plea deal and kicks his ass. The giant sea cucumber is still running rampant and eventually gets taken down by Miwa in his new hero form, Brave! Why did I say it like that? Brave and Sai have a small confrontation before Brave flies off and Miwa shows back up, but Sai is suspicious. During the aftermath, Korone explains that Sai only needs to marry into an established family for his own protection, and proposes he marries Junko, and Korone then confesses to Sai, only to pull back as a, oh, so that's what you're into, gotcha. Episode 8, Teria meets Blonde Guy, he wants to destroy the Demon King. Flashback to Sai leaving the orphanage at a young age and leaving Kina behind with a hairpiece. Sai's birthday is also supposedly December 25th. Yes. Crimus! It was the day he was left at the church. Sai still can't figure out that Kina is the girl from his childhood. Anyways, Eto is getting molested by tentacles, voluntarily. Once it's too much, she throws an exploding potion at it and it stops. So she's into that. Fantastic. She stole an egg from a demon beast, and the dragon, Peterhausen, don't know why I never said his name, warns her of demon beast being kinda insane. Talk of God begins in this episode. We went from tentacles to God in less than 5 minutes. Anime! Also, God is just a giant supercomputer that controls the flow of mana, and Sai doesn't like that because he wants to make the world a better place and thinks the current system of everyone idolizing this technology only leads to more problems. We truly live in a society. Did I put on all this makeup for one fucking joke? So Kina ends up stealing the egg and wants to eat it, but it's a demon beast egg, and as soon as Sai touches it, the egg grows and releases a giant two-headed chicken. Miwa changes to Brave as the beast flies off to the city and antagonizes an idle TV reporter Ninja Girl. Brave destroys the beast and saves girl, I forgot her name. It's Yuri? Yuko? Oh well. Let's go faster. Episode 9, more backstory of Sai in the orphanage. He's like a middle schooler who just discovered atheism and has to argue with everyone about it. Junko gets a phone call from her dad. He wants to meet Sai. The headmaster meets a blonde guy. He leads CMO 8 apparently. Sai and Junko go to meet her father and see Yuko, the girl Miwa was crushing on, who also happens to be Junko's sister. She was bitten by a demon beast as a child, and this left a scar on her neck that has a demon beast mana inside of it and causes her to act up when she gets close to a demon beast. Their father's a cool guy, but Sai can't take a fucking hint. Junko tries to sleep with him, then spills the beans and leaves. So now he's getting chased by the Hattori clan's ninjas, but psych! Teria is actually here. Also, this is pretty sad. While Sai left with Junko to deal with all that, Kina, who never told Sai when her birthday was, is now celebrating her birthday alone with Onigiri. Also, now the government is hiring assassins to kidnap Kina. Yeah, well, at least she isn't alone. Everyone is against Sai now, including Korone. She can't deny her programming, but still makes it to where Sai can deactivate her. Then he walks through a fucking tree. Blonde guy saves Kina, and then Sai confronts the blonde guy who says that Kina is the principle of identity, whatever the fuck that means. Episode 10, blonde guy's Boichiro, that name from earlier. One of the guys who escaped from the school makes it back to the Teria home. He's the leader of the Teria clan, and he's dead. Teria girl kills her own father, but was seen by 2V, another guy from CMO 8, and also I guess killing your father makes you dress more lewd. Sai and company flee since Boichiro is strong as fuck, but he chases them by flying on a sword like he's playing Sonic Riders. Due to lies, the Hattori family joins the Teria family in a joint attempt to take down Sai, but Teria sends only Yuko and Junko in a hope that they die so she can absorb their family. Brave also shows up, Sai regroups with Peterhausen, Boichiro and the headmaster square off, Junko jumps onto Peterhausen to attack Sai, but he just gently lets her off as Brave attacks them. Junko and Yuko fight Rubberman, Sai and Brave have a dialogue about God and stuff, giant Imperial warship shows up, Boichiro and the headmaster have a long history of over 100 years, meaning Boichiro is old as fuck. Kina starts to say some dark stuff, seemingly out of character. 2V starts to fuck with shit because he controls loads of puppets, he then crashes the ship directly into Sai. Episode 11, Boichiro backstory. He gets cucked by the former demon lord, and the principle of identity looks like Kina, just blonde, but this took place in the future, so he became a time traveler and went back in time in an attempt to stop fate. Has he never seen Back to the Future? I haven't either, so I don't even know if that reference works here. Sai isn't really in this episode much, so we get to watch the girls fight amongst themselves. Boichiro deactivates Brave because he created the device Miwa uses and needs Miwa to be able to defeat Sai. Rubberman leaves Junko and Yuko and instead focuses on Eto and Kina, but he's a masochist, so Eto's whip does nothing. Lily and the other student council members start to fight the Teria ninjas, and it's just One Piece's Wano arc. Oh yeah, Boichiro killed Eto's brother, so she kinda doesn't like him. Kina has a separate personality that's emotionless and aware of the metaphysical and how God works. Brave teams up with Boichiro and they teleport out. All the girls are able to team up. Towards the end of the episode, Sai is actually alive. The headmaster helps them and Sai goes with Peterhausen to save Kina and fight God. Junko refuses to listen to Teria, who's in charge of her family, and chooses instead to betray her family in favor of Sai, but Korone stops Junko from killing Teria. Teria runs away, but is instead confronted by her rebirthed cyborg dad. Thank God! Oh yeah, also the Demon King's a recycled process repeated every 100 years in an attempt to cleanse society while being created by God. Think Future Diary, but dumber. Final episode, Sai and Brave have a final standoff. Sai just tanks the attacks until Brave eventually gives up. Sai accounted for this and they have a final reconciliation. Sai apologizes and explains, for God to no longer interfere and cause pain, he must no longer exist, and in his place the Demon King will take over to maintain the flow and the balance of mana. In short, I will become God! Boichiro is trying to force restart God in a way. He gets told that it's futile by some type of temple girls, but he decides, nah, fuck that, I wanna hug you. Sai shows up and fights Boichiro. There's so many animation errors, scaling makes no sense, and items and people are constantly changing sizes and shapes. God tries to force Kina inside to form a contract to enter into a new world. Sai doesn't want to, and while God tries to fly off into the sky, here's a quick mid-card. I didn't edit this. Sai and Peterhausen fly into God while Kina strips her clothing to sneak in. Peterhausen hacks into God to take over control. He also plans to sacrifice himself to keep Sai alive, but Kina goes into another metaphysical realm to speak to the former principle of identity. They decide that if Sai is gonna go through with that, then it's best to let it happen, but to alter the memories of those not directly involved about the events that happened. Everyone believes that the Demon King was killed and that Sai helped kill him as a disciplinary committee member. Epilogue time! Korone is still watching Sai even though that order doesn't exist anymore. Gugu Girl finally speaks, next year's health check, Sai is still destined to be the Demon King, Junko still gets mad, Miwa still simps. Nothing changed! There are 6 specials, I'm not going over those.
Wow! Congratulations!
Closing thoughts. This show is a hot mess, not in a fun way. I dropped it during my initial rewatch of the series about 3 months ago. I had 2 episodes left and I couldn't bring myself to finish watching it. This story is all over the fucking place. The characters themselves are okay, kind of annoying at times, especially the side characters, but there were a handful of decent moments between them. They just felt so out of place. The music is bland and the only song I can think of off the top of my head from the show is the main theme, because even though I skip the intro 99% of the time I watch anime, they use it so much during the actual show that I know it due to it being waterboarded onto me. Despite that though, I actually really like the main theme and the motif they used for the melody. I can't say exactly how well it works during the more calm scenes, even if it is played over some soft keys, but it works pretty well for the action sequences, and I'd love to make a lo-fi beat out of it sometime. Actually, hold on. The sound design is also pretty good, and probably the best part of the show. The story, on the other hand, is like, don't. Look, normally I try to have some type of semi-uplifting statement about the show and how it correlates to some greater concept, but the show doesn't deserve that. It's bad, and while I can see why some people may enjoy it as a fellow connoisseur of lewd animation, this show just ain't it. It's not worth it. It was practically abandoned by its own writer, it had numerous issues between adaptations, and the production company that made it went bankrupt not long after its release. It had some interesting ideas, but ideas can only take you so far, and I don't really see ideas as being a good defense for the show. Everyone has ideas, and a lot of people have really good ideas, but ideas without proper follow-through that come out half-baked can make even the best ideas look idiotic. So if you have an idea, do it. Trust your gut, follow through with it, make that idea a reality. I get it now, this show taught me to trust in myself, to believe in my heart. The sandwich needed mustard, not mayonnaise.